Hi, this is Zach with Warner Wound. Today I'll be taking a look at the Tissot Heritage Navigator 160th anniversary model. It's a very cool watch that will be available this fall. And it's a reissue actually of a watch that Tissot first introduced in 1953 for their 100th anniversary. And it was a very unique watch then, a world timer that featured a push-button country wheel, which you can see represented here. And this is a contemporized reissue, so it's a larger watch with different materials. So it has a sapphire crystal front and back, and an ETA 2893 chronometer grade movement in it. This will retail for around $1,600. It's a very cool watch, so let's take a closer look now. The biggest visual difference between the 160th anniversary and the original model is really the size of the watch. So the original from 1953 was a 36 millimeter diameter, and this is a 43 millimeter. So it's actually quite a lot larger, and even kind of verges on being, a fairly large watch for today's standards. But, in doing so, I think they expanded the dial, which is a very busy dial, therefore kind of making everything a little bit more legible, and also just gave the watch a lot more presence. So, like I said, the diameter is 43 millimeters. It is 51.25 millimeters lug to lug, and then measures just about 10 millimeters thick, making it a fairly thin watch, and that is measuring actually up to the kind of the top of this very gently domed sapphire crystal. The watch also features a 22 millimeter lug width here. The finishing on the watch is very simple. I mean, the overall design is actually very simple, as I think not to really overwhelm the busy dial design. So, starting with the bezel here, it is a polished bezel that really acts as part of this dial, as you have these numerals going around that are etched in and then filled in with black. And then coming off those are these straight fat lugs that are also polished on the top. Looking at the side, though, you'll see that there is a light brushing on the side just to kind of break it up. But, like I said, overall, very simple finishing on the watch, very simple design. You do have the small crown here. It's about 5.5 millimeters in diameter. It is a push-pull crown. The movement here is hand-windable, so you might find yourself using that. And it does have a little Tissot T on it as well. Flipping the watch over now, take a look at the case back. It's a very nicely designed case back, granted very simple. So it has this kind of script going around it with some, facts about the watch, including, this is a limited edition watch, so it does tell you the number there. And, the kind of interesting Tissot logo from the 50s, some little filigrees. It's just very nice looking. And then inside you can see the 2893 chronometer grade movement, which has this special gold tone rotor here with Cote de Genève stripe on it. So, it's just a little more elegant, definitely a little bit of decoration, which, for a watch in this price range, I think you definitely want to see. The dial of the Tissot Heritage Navigator is very complicated because it actually indicates the time in 24 different time zones, so the time all the way around the world. And it does so in several different layers of information. It actually starts here with the outer bezel, which gives you a 12-hour index, which, is what you're going to use to look at the primary hands for your home time or, the local time, depending on how you choose to use the watch. Stepping in, then, you have a 24-hour index on this kind of interesting silver chapter ring, and that you're going to use to tell the time on this moving world time disc. So, right now we're in New York and the watch set to New York time. It's telling us that it's just about 3:15. So, looking at this disc, then I could tell you that it is 4:15 in Santiago or 1:15 here in Denver. So, it's a very interesting way of kind of literally telling the time all the way around the world, and it's doing so actually using the GMT function of the movement, but we'll talk about that a bit more later. Aesthetically, the design of the dial and the whole watch is very faithful to the original watch. It's very busy, as I said, but it's quite attractive. I could actually only imagine on the original 36 millimeter version just how busy it really was, because here at 43 millimeters, it's still, a little bit easy to get kind of lost looking at, say, the hour to the wrong indices or, the minutes, vice versa. There's just really a lot of information. But aesthetically, it's really very attractive. I particularly like this 24-hour chapter ring here. All these markers are applied, giving it, a very retro look, and it's, kind of a nice textured ring. And then the white inner dial here with blue lettering, it's just aesthetically, it's really very attractive. Definitely speaks to, kind of the 50s design, and doesn't really look like any other watch on the market now. Some other interesting little things, the lume on the watch. There's very little lume, but I like what they did with it. So there's these kind of tritium lume dots, 2 at 24, and then 1 at 3, 6, and 9. I'm not sure if those are actual tritium, but the dial here does say T Swiss made T, which was the indication. If you look at a vintage watch, that would tell you that there was tritium present. Either way, like I said, it's faithful to the original, and it's also just a nice little detail. The hands of the watch, then, you have these 2 large blue Dauphine hands. They're very attractive. They pop off the dial quite nicely. And those also have a tiny bit of lume in the form of just a sliver line there. It's not very prominent, but it is nice regardless. So overall, I think aesthetically this watch is really spot on to the original. And as far as a modern reinterpretation, being this size, I think, helps the legibility. And, it still gives it a lot of presence. Now, just talking a little bit about the movement and the functionality of this watch. Often I think world timers and GMT watches are, closely associated with travel. But with this watch, I really think it's better to be thought of as a watch, you're staying in one location to tell the time all the way around the world. So, and that's obviously very useful, in business or if you have family abroad, things like that. Because what happens, so if you were to travel right now, let's say we went to another city on this map, like Rio de Janeiro, for example, you would, if you didn't change the time on the watch, then everything would be correct. But if you were to set the time here, that is to say, change the hour forward 2 hours to be correct, you would actually adjust the whole inner ring as well. So then that would be off. So then you would have to set that all the way back. Really, you would just keep this set to the one time and travel, and then just use the 24 hours off the minute. So that makes it a little complicated for traveling. Often world time watches have a push button that you push and it would jump the hour forward as to not, alter kind of the 24-hour zone. Anyway, that is really, kind of a major difference between this and the original model. But nevertheless, having this 24-hour indicator, for a rather world indicator, is still very useful, interesting, and kind of, gives the watch some distinct function. Now, just the movement is it's an ETA 2893 COSC grade, which means it has been regulated in various positions, and basically certified as a chronometer grade. So it is highly accurate. That is to say, it's going to keep very good time. And to use it, pulling the crown out one stop, you can adjust this inner 24-hour ring by rotating the crown away from you, and you can see it jumps hour by hour. So, like I said, though, right now it just would be incorrect. I would have to adjust that to the local time again. And then pulling it out all the way, it has a hacking seconds, and then you can change the time here. So once the time, though, is really set up, you're really going to leave it as is. On the wrist, the Heritage Navigator doesn't really wear like any other watch I have. It has a very kind of vintage look to it, but it's very large in a very modern way. So 43 millimeters, is larger than most of the watches I actually wear. But with this watch, it feels big, but it also has such a unique look and unique presence that it's kind of its own thing, that I feel like 43 millimeters works because of what it is and because it's all dial, and just because it has this very kind of interesting aesthetic going on. That being said, literally, does it fit very well? I feel like on my wrist it is about maxed out. I've been wearing it around. It doesn't bother me, but as you can see, the 51 millimeter lug to lug there is getting a little bit long. I don't know if this would fit someone with smaller than a 7-inch wrist quite so well. But also the watch is very flat, so at least it doesn't feel terribly big. It doesn't feel like a bulky watch so much. It's just a bit long. But it's, really beautiful to look at. It's, definitely kind of a mix between, something dressy and casual, just very unique. I think the colors, the palette, white, silver, blue, the brown strap, it's very attractive. Definitely can go with just about anything. Would look great in kind of a formal setting for a little bit more of like a wow factor, or just as like, a day-to-day watch. Looking at the strap it comes with now, so it's a 22 millimeter lug width. I think that is actually nicely proportioned for the watch, as it is pretty wide. And it comes with this brown leather kind of croc impressed strap I think aesthetically it works kind of perfectly with the watch. Like I said, it's a little dressy, but not overly dressy, and just has a very nice palette match to it. And then this watch actually comes on a really, really nice deployment clasp here. So it has this kind of thick metal area here with two push buttons on the side, and this nice Tissot kind of vintage logo etched in. Push the two buttons, and it opens from one side. And the way the strap actually works is it goes in and down through this metal piece. So you have a very, very clean look here. So there's no strap going over there. There are no keepers on it. It's just a very streamlined look. Yeah, overall, just a very, very attractive watch. Not like any other watch you're going to see in the market today. The Heritage Navigator 160th anniversary is a very interesting and unique watch that I think Tissot is definitely using to kind of celebrate their own brand. The original World Time watch World Time Navigator from the 50s, is a really unique watch. It's a very collectible watch that goes for several $1,000s in good condition, and this kind of tribute to it takes it, modernizes it a bit, uses a different movement, makes it much larger, so it gives it's a similar watch. It definitely is reminiscent of it, but it's also something kind of new and interesting unto itself. At $1,600, it certainly isn't cheap, but I don't think you're going to find at a 2893 chronometer grade movement in very many watches for less than that, let alone one with this kind of world time, universal time functionality going on, or just such a unique design. Naturally, it also has sapphire crystal, and everything is the quality that you expect it to be. It's a very nicely made watch. So I feel like it could very well be a collectible watch. It is a limited edition, but moreover, I feel like it's just a very unique watch with a very interesting aesthetic that if it appeals to you, I feel like you just should jump on it. It's a very cool watch. So thank you. Please read the full review on wornandwound.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, and Twitter.